Hi guys, Keir Starmer was in Belfast on Monday where he met with politicians there and the PSNI, the Police Service of Northern Ireland. He said that the riots had no justification and that they were racist, something that he has avoided somewhat recently. He threw his support behind the police, which included some who were injured during the recent rioting. Then he said that he would speak to some of the communities most impacted by the riots. So it's important for the Prime Minister to visit the hotspot and expose the rioters for what they are: racists and xenophobes who wish to cause trouble, and paramilitaries who want to stamp their authority in the community.
I'm in Northern Ireland here today for three purposes. Firstly, to meet the PSNI officers who've been on the front line during this disorder. Many of them have been injured. And my purpose was to say to them, thank you for what they have done. We make big asks of them, they step up, and they deserve our thanks. I've also had the chance to speak to the PSNI senior leadership about the challenges that they face and the support that they need. And then third, and very importantly, to speak to some of the communities most impacted about the fear that they have, the anxiety that they have about the recent disorder. The disorder is intolerable. It is incapable of justification. It's clearly racist, and it does not represent the modern, forward-looking Northern Ireland that I know that this place is. So I'm very pleased to achieve all those three things today and to work with all communities, to work with the PSNI and others to ensure that we handle this situation, not just the immediate disorder, but also the longer-term work that's necessary to ensure that we have that one Northern Ireland approach that I know represents the Northern Ireland, modern Northern Ireland of the future.
Okay, so this is great to hear, and it's completely correct to call these things out as they are. They're racist. Now, the situation in Northern Ireland is different to that in England, although there are connections. And I mentioned this before. Loyalist paramilitaries have connections to English nationalism. They have connections to groups like Combat 18 and the National Front. So this is why we're seeing it take place predominantly, of course, in loyalist communities in Northern Ireland. And they have a long history of racism and xenophobia. We've seen business owners being attacked in the past. We've seen asylum seekers being intimidated and driven out of their homes by loyalist paramilitaries. Now, the loyalist paramilitaries are doing it for two reasons. One is because they're racist and xenophobic, but the other is about stamping authority. We are in charge in this area. You can only come in if we agree to that. And if we don't agree to that, we're going to run you out of town. This is a problem. This is not something that we're seeing in England. This is predominantly in Northern Ireland. Now, as I said, the approach that the government have to take has to be different, and it has to be delicate, because as I said, we're talking about loyalist paramilitaries here, and because of the Good Friday Agreement, the way of dealing with loyalist paramilitaries and other paramilitaries has changed over the last number of decades. So the approach the government will have to take in Northern Ireland will have to be delicate. Not saying that people shouldn't be put in prison, definitely put in prison, but the approach has another angle to it. We're talking about paramilitaries getting involved here. And of course, politicians in Northern Ireland on the unionist side who have been either turning a blind eye to this or encouraging it. They have to be investigated as well. I'm not going to name any names, but I think we all know who we're talking about here. So it's right to call these things out as racist. It's right to call it out as unacceptable. But the approach the government will have to take in Northern Ireland will have to be slightly different to that in England. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.